Next up is the role of coronial inquests. So this is yet another way that the law reform can occur in Australia. So it is a public hearing or an autopsy into the deaths of a person or more than one person. It's conducted by the coroner and it's held to determine the medical cause of a person's death. So this is different to a trial, a criminal kind of trial, because the purpose here is not to determine who was responsible, but simply just to determine what actually happened. They want to know how the person died, what were the sequence of events that caused that to happen. Now, each jurisdiction has a coroner that can conduct an inquest into the death of people or one person. And it's often when it was suspected to be caused by an unlawful act or if some kind of tragic event has occurred as well. So you don't have a coronial inquest when someone dies naturally of old age, but if it's suspicious or as a result of a tragic event, then a coronial inquest would potentially occur. So it can influence law reform in two ways. It can highlight an injustice in the current law, and it can also highlight injustice in the criminal investigation process by determining the causes of deaths in custody. So if we look at things like people being mistreated in detention or in prison, then that could result in law reform because they would be recognizing that there are issues to address in that area. So the coroner may make recommendations to the Commissioner of Corrective Services in that case. So depending on the nature of the inquest, the coroner might recommend to the government an action or a series of actions, and this can include law reform. And the idea behind this is to prevent or minimize a repeat of any of those events or the criminal offences that resulted in the death or deaths. So the coroner controls and coordinates each step of the investigation with the police, and they have a wide range of powers. So they're able to request additional reports and statements or information about the deaths or death. And they can also obtain more information from investigators, police, doctors, all the different people who may be involved or may be experts in some way that is helpful to understand the situation. So inquests are usually conducted in the magistrate's court by the coroner for the purpose of gathering information and facts about what likely caused the death and whether any negligence was involved or any law has been broken. So an example is Gabe Watson. So Tina Watson was an American woman who died in 2003 while scuba diving in Queensland during her honeymoon with her husband, Gabe Watson. So he was initially charged by Queensland authorities, and a coronial inquest was called because certain parts of the story didn't add up with what caused her death. And during the inquest, it was found that Gabe's story contradicted some evidence that was collected from the dive computer and from witnesses. So it was found that he abandoned her while she was experiencing distress during a dive. and he ended up being convicted of manslaughter, and he served some time in an Ipswich prison. So you can see here the role of people with technology for one, and then just submissions from witnesses. So Tina's death was actually accidentally recorded by a fellow diver who had a camera underwater, and you can see that it captured some evidence that was used as part of this inquest.